For thousands of years, people have told stories about strange experiences that we cannot explain. Stories that conflict with our understanding of reality. Some of those stories found their way into print, to be read by hundreds, thousands, or even millions of readers before being consigned to the oblivion of the archives. In this series, we dust off forgotten newspaper clippings, magazine articles, and letters from the library of the late Gary Mangiacopra, one of the most prolific collectors of strange stories in the world. Join us as we uncover the forgotten secrets of the archive.
Box 5 of the Gary Mangiacopra Archive is dedicated to lost treasures from the United States and around the world. From the contents of sunken Spanish treasure galleons to stolen stagecoach loot buried during the American Civil War. There are folders on lost treasure stories from 39 of the American states, the other 11 being Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. There are also folders on treasure stories from the Canadian province of Ontario, the Roman Empire, the Russian Empire, the Third Reich, the Caribbean, Central and South America, the Philippines, and Sweden. One anomalous folder, inconsistent with the prevailing theme of Box 5, contains very interesting old articles on the Yeti or Abominable Snowman, the legendary giant of the Himalayas. Most of the material is composed of newspaper clippings, although there are also many articles from old defunct magazines, as well as a few pieces of correspondence. In this video, we will dig up stories from 2 folders from Box 5, which lie at the junction of lost treasure stories and unexplained phenomena. The first folder is filled with treasure stories in which wild men play a role, including the tale of a gold-rich mountain in Arizona, said to have vanished into thin air, a story about giant skeletons purportedly recovered in the American Southwest, and tales of unsolved disappearances near California's so-called Devil's Backbone. The second folder is dedicated to treasure stories involving ghosts, including the tale of a phantom conquistador who was killed by the Navajo while searching for Cibola, the legendary 7 cities of gold, and the legend surrounding haunted Skeleton Canyon in New Mexico's Peloncillo Mountains. The following is a simplified summary of the 128 pages worth of stories contained within these folders, condensed and narrated with the assistance of AI technology. Enjoy. In the rugged wilderness of the American West, there are legendary treasures that elude the enterprising seeker. Treasures not only of gold or silver, but also of flesh and bone. One of these hidden wonders is the elusive creature known as Bigfoot, a figure that has captivated imaginations and fueled countless expeditions. In Weaverville, a small town nestled in Northern California, a $10,000 reward has been offered for any tangible proof that this towering man-ape really exists. Sasquatch, as it's known in Canada, is described as an 8-foot-tall creature covered in dark, thick hair. Its massive 16-inch footprints have been found across the rugged mountain ranges of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, and in the northerly wilderness of British Columbia, Yukon, and Alaska. Some believe that these beings are descendants of a prehistoric race, while others speculate they could be the missing link between ape and man. Despite fervent efforts, and some legends to the contrary, no one has ever captured a specimen or unearthed any definitive remains. Eyewitnesses' descriptions of the creature, and a few plaster casts of its giant footprints, serve as the only physical evidence of its existence. In the late 1960s, Roger Patterson of Yakima, Washington, managed to film one of these creatures near Bluff Creek in Northern California. The so-called Patterson-Gimlin footage he captured has sparked endless debate ever since. The scientific world eagerly awaits undeniable proof, a single bone or tooth that could lead to one of the most significant anthropological discoveries of our time. Yet Bigfoot remains a specter in the wilderness, always one step ahead of its pursuers. The Sasquatch is not the only mysterious giant said to have roamed the West. In Yosemite Valley, California, in July 1895, prospectors led by G.L. Martindale stumbled upon a mummified corpse inside a hidden cave. The body, measuring 6 feet 8 inches in height, was that of a woman who, in life, had stood nearly 7 feet tall. Scientists confirmed that she was a normal human, devoid of any glandular disorders, giving credence to local tales of a giant woman who had once terrorized the Awanichi Indians. In 1877, near Eureka, Nevada, gold prospectors unearthed fossilized leg bones from a man who would have stood 10 feet tall. The mountains of Arizona hold similar secrets, where 2 prospectors discovered a vast underground complex filled with giant-sized stone furniture and golden artifacts. The finds didn't stop there. In 1904, J.C. Brown uncovered a tunnel system in the Cascade Mountains, its walls lined with copper, filled with gold ornaments, and the skeletal remains of giants. But Brown, like many before and after him, vanished mysteriously during an expedition to retrieve these treasures. The most intriguing claim of all emerged in 1946, when Howard E. Hill announced the discovery of an ancient civilization in the Colorado Desert, where the inhabitants stood between 8 and 9 feet tall. These giants, he asserted, had lived 80,000 years ago. He attempted to draw a connection between them and the fabled lost kingdom of Mu. Despite the sensational nature of the discovery, Hill and the retired doctor, who had allegedly found the remains, disappeared from the public eye, leaving the world to wonder if these were simply tall tales. Not all lost treasures of the West are giants of flesh and blood. The lost bones of Peking Man, among the most significant scientific discoveries of the 20th century, vanished without a trace during the chaos of World War II. Unearthed in caves near Beijing, China, these fossils, dating back over 500,000 years, offered a glimpse into humanity's distant past. But in 1941, as war loomed, the decision was made to send the bones to America for safekeeping. Tragically, they were lost en route, possibly captured by Japanese forces, and have never been recovered. Over the years, rumors have swirled about their fate. Some say the bones were shipped to Japan and lost at sea. Others believe they were ground to powder by Chinese peasants. One of the more intriguing tales comes from Christopher G. Janus, a Chicago investment broker who has been on the trail of the bones for decades. In 1972, a woman claiming to be the widow of a U.S. Marine contacted him, alleging she possessed the remains. However, their meeting never materialized, and the trail went cold. Despite the passage of time and countless dead ends, Janus remains steadfast in his quest to find the lost bones of Peking Man. He continues to pursue leads, convinced that somewhere, hidden away, these remnants of our ancient ancestors still exist, waiting to be rediscovered. Is it the Florida Yeti, the so-called skunk ape of the Everglades, or just the wind blowing through the palmetto grass? Whatever the cause, Cayo, Pelau, Florida, has a mysterious atmosphere that unsettles anyone who visits this former pirate island. Some say the island is cursed. Others believe it's haunted. Could it be the ghost of the pirate Gasparilla, guarding hidden treasure? Or maybe the spirits of those he killed? Gasparilla, originally named Jose Gaspar, was a pirate who made this area his base, terrorizing ships for decades. He and his crew met their end in 1822 when they attacked a disguised American warship. Gasparilla wrapped an anchor chain around himself and jumped into the sea when his ship was disabled. Some of his crew drowned, while others were captured. But the legends don't end there. Some believe the Florida Yeti, similar to Bigfoot, also roams the island. This creature, with fur ranging from brown to black, has been seen on Florida's west coast. Its presence adds to the island's eerie feel. One treasure seeker shared his unsettling experiences on the island. Both times he visited, he faced troubles. The first time, rough seas nearly caused him to lose his metal detector. The second time, his metal detector malfunctioned on the island. Despite strong signals, he found nothing. That night, he was too terrified to sleep, plagued by the unnerving sensation that he was being watched. On his way back, high winds almost swamped his boat. He left convinced that the island is haunted and cursed. Honey Island is a dense, swampy area between the Pearl River's east and west branches. It's a mysterious place, rich in history and legends. From tales of hidden pirate treasure to sightings of a creature called the Honey Island Monster, It's the perfect setting for stories that blur the line between reality and myth. The swampy waters of Honey Island are home to various wildlife, including the elusive Honey Island monster. This creature was first reported by a swamp guide who saw a 5-foot-tall black figure running on 2 legs after his boat hit something large underwater. The story quickly spread, with similar sightings reported across Louisiana, Mississippi, and the Gulf Coast. The dense swamp is an ideal hiding place for such a creature, adding a layer of danger to any visit, but the island's mysteries don't stop with the monster. Honey Island has a history filled with tales of pirates, outlaws, and hidden treasure. The most famous involves Pierre Rameau, also known as Kirk McCullough, a notorious pirate. He used Honey Island as his base and amassed a fortune, including a huge amethyst cross. His greed led him to betray and rob a former comrade, Vasseur, who survived the attack and vowed revenge. Both men died in a final confrontation, and Rameau's treasure remains hidden on the island. Other outlaws also used Honey Island as a hideout, including John Morrell and James Copeland, who both buried treasure there. Although some treasure has been found, most of it is still hidden. In California's Sierra Nevada, there's said to be a hidden 15-acre glacial lake with a shallow bottom filled with gold. The gold here is said to be so abundant that with the right tools, someone could collect millions. However, despite historical records, no one alive today knows exactly where this gold lake is. Though it was found and lost multiple times in the mid-1800s, it has remained hidden since 1850. If rediscovered, the finder would be set for life. In the early 1840s, California mountain men heard stories from Native Americans about a yellow lake in a secluded part of the High Sierra, guarded by a monster. Intrigued, several men set out to find it, hoping it was full of gold. But after a year of searching the rugged terrain, they found neither the lake nor the monster. In 1890, E.C. Kemble recalled an Indian chief telling him not to search for the gold, warning that it was protected by a demon that devours those who seek it. The story resurfaced in 1849, when an old man named Caleb Greenwood claimed to know of a place where gold nuggets the size of walnuts lay on the ground. He said he had camped near a lake where his children played with the nuggets. A young man, Henry DeGroot, wanted to be led to this lake, but Greenwood's son, Johnny, was the one who offered to guide a group of prospectors for a fee. The group, led by a friend of DeGroot, searched the Sierra for months, but returned empty-handed. The legend of Gold Lake persisted, and in the early 1900s, some believed Round Lake near Plumas and Sierra counties might be the Lost Lake, but mining efforts there failed. Despite occasional searches, the lake remains undiscovered. If found, it could yield a fortune worth millions. John Hicks's tale of a lost treasure is one of the strangest of the American West. This seasoned prospector claimed that he didn't just lose a treasure, he lost an entire mountain. In 1871, John Hicks, a Missouri native with a thirst for gold, arrived in Arizona and partnered with an experienced prospector, Lemuel Jackass Dodson. Together, they ventured into a remote area southwest of Flagstaff, lured by tales of gold nuggets scattered in dry stream beds. Dodson's interest also lay with a local Indian girl, Shining Flower, who claimed to know the location of the gold and agreed to take the prospectors to it. Despite her warnings about a mysterious creature following them, they continued to a distant mountain, where she said the gold was located. When they arrived, the prospectors found gold glittering in the sand, but the woman became terrified, insisting something was stalking them. At night, a strange and mournful howl, unlike anything Dodson had ever heard before, carried across the desert. Shining Flower identified the eerie moan as the cry of an Indian spirit. That night, they heard eerie sounds. The next morning, their burrows and water supply vanished, forcing Dodson to search for them, while Hicks and Shining Flower remained at the camp. Days passed without Dodson's return, and the water supply dwindled. Finally, Hicks and Shining Flower attempted to follow Dodson's trail, but the woman collapsed. Hicks left to get water, and returned to find her gone. With help from villagers, Hicks found Dobson's body, but the mountain and the woman were nowhere to be found. The landscape had changed, with a flat desert where the mountain once stood. Hicks eventually found their old campsite, but was shocked to see the mountain had completely vanished. Hicks left the area, never to return. Though he kept the few gold nuggets he had found, most dismissed his story as a heat-induced hallucination. But Hicks believed the nuggets in his hand proved it was real. When searching for buried treasure, any method that might help uncover the cache is worth trying. Even unconventional methods might be useful if there's a chance they could work. One such method involves following the trail of the person who buried the treasure. This idea is based on the belief that everything leaves behind a psychic imprint that certain sensitive individuals can tune into, allowing them to relive past events or experiences. Here's an example to illustrate this supposed phenomenon. A few years ago in Maine, there were reports of a gorilla supposedly running wild in the area. The creature was seen near the edge of town and would disappear into the woods after being spotted by locals. This caused quite a stir, with some speculating it might be a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. The author of the article from whom this report derives, a treasure hunter skilled in this unorthodox method, was contacted by a police officer he knew, who asked him if he would help locate the creature. The author agreed, and the officer drove him to a remote cemetery where the beast had been seen the day before. The author requested to investigate alone, arranging for the officer to pick him up in 30 minutes. With an L swing rod in hand, the author stood alone in the cemetery, focusing on the path the gorilla might have taken. The area was surrounded by thick woods with no nearby houses or structures. Although the potential danger became apparent later, the author was so absorbed in his task that fear never crossed his mind. As the author concentrated, the rod swung left, pointing to the rear of the cemetery. Following its direction, he went down an embankment and then back toward the cemetery. At the edge of the embankment, a deep footprint, much larger than a human's, was found. A sturdy sapling nearby showed signs of being used by the creature to pull itself up the incline. The author stepped into the footprint, grasped the tree, and pulled himself up in the same way. Back in the cemetery, he continued to douse with the rod leading him across the road and into the woods. The dense vegetation made progress tough, but the rod's guidance was followed. Eventually, the author reached an area of tall pines, where more deep footprints were found, similar to those near the embankment. It seemed the dowsing was working, as the author appeared to be following the exact trail. At this point, the author realized the potential danger he was in if the creature he was tracking was indeed a wild beast, and decided to head back to the road. As he did, a loud bang like a gunshot rang out, convincing the author to wait by the road for his friend. The friend arrived shortly and mentioned hearing the same sound, fearing the author had been shot. It turned out a nearby farmer's tractor had backfired, creating the noise they heard. On the way back to town, a report came over the police radio that the gorilla had been spotted elsewhere. The author and the officer rushed to the location and met with witnesses. After a brief discussion, the pair headed into the woods where the creature had been seen. Although they searched for a while, nothing was found. Returning to the cruiser, the L rod continued to point to the center of the wooded area. The author was convinced the creature was hiding there, but he and his companion didn't have the manpower to conduct a thorough search. The mystery was eventually solved when a local costume company reported that a customer had rented a gorilla suit and failed to return it. This prankster had fooled everyone, stirring up excitement with his antics. For the author, it was a fascinating dowsing experience, which proved the efficacy of this mysterious treasure hunting technique. Sometime in the mid-20th century, a group of explorers traveled to Nepal in search of the legendary Lake of Milk, supposed to be a depository of real milk hidden away in the Himalayas, which nourished a mythical warrior in ancient times. Although this strange oasis was once a destination for Buddhist pilgrims in search of nirvana, the borders to the holy place were sealed long ago by warlike Sherpas, who guarded the narrow mountain passes that they used for spice trading with ancient China. Despite harsh conditions, the adventurers managed to find the lake, which was filled with clear, cold water rather than the milk of legend. On its shores, they discovered ancient artifacts like small bronze tridents and simple coins left by pilgrims over the centuries. They camped by the lake, but struggled to sleep due to the howling wind and eerie noises. As the night wore on, the lake began to freeze, turning white as ice formed on its surface. The next morning, a heavy snowfall forced them to break camp quickly and make a dangerous descent to avoid being trapped by avalanches. Though they found little of material value, the explorers uncovered a deeper understanding of the legend and the true wealth of the Himalayas, their majestic peaks. In 1914, Mac Jones, a man suffering from tuberculosis, was camping in the high country along the Humboldt-Trinity County line in California. While gathering firewood, he accidentally picked up a human skull, discovering the charred remains of a log cabin and 2 skeletons, one with a bullet hole in its skull. Excited by his find, Jones searched the area and uncovered old placer workings downstream, where he found gold. He believed the last miner to work there had been an Indian who had met a gruesome fate. This discovery reminded him of the legend of the lost mine on Devil's Backbone. The story, dating back to the 1880s, told of 2 sourdoughs who had mysteriously vanished after striking gold in the wilderness. Later, in the 1890s, an Indian in Willow Creek grew wealthy without any visible means of income, disappearing each autumn to retrieve gold from a secret location. He offered to reveal the mine's location in exchange for a herd of horses and land, but died in a tragic accident before he could do so. His wife took the secret to her grave. Mac Jones had stumbled upon this lost mine, hidden for 25 years, but snow forced him to leave before fully exploring it. He later contracted pneumonia and died before he could share the exact location with his sons, who searched in vain for 5 summers. The mine's location remains a mystery, waiting to be discovered again, perhaps somewhere on the west side of Devil's Backbone in the Redcap Creek drainage. Dick Lingefelter, a treasure hunter and writer, recently proposed a new concept for a treasure detector in the Illinois and Iowa Treasure Hunters Club's newsletter, The Dirty Five. In his article titled, "Can It Be Done?", Lingefelter theorized that a device could be created to detect precious metals using a method inspired by old mining techniques. According to historical accounts, both Spaniards and Native Americans in the Southwest located rich veins of gold and silver by watching mountains under a full moon. They believed that when the moon was at its highest point, a bluish-green glow would appear over the veins of precious metal. Lingefelter suggested that this glow, which resembles a soft light similar to a gas burner, might be caused by rays emitted by gold and silver. These rays are typically invisible to the human eye due to the limitations of the visible spectrum, but might become visible under specific conditions, like the full moon at its apex. Lingefelter theorized that it could be possible to develop a device that mimics these conditions, using light waves instead of sound waves to locate precious metals. He speculated that a cathode ray tube could replicate the moonlight's wavelength, somewhere between ultraviolet and X-ray on the spectrum, potentially revolutionizing the field of treasure hunting. Skeleton Canyon, winding through the Peloncillo Mountains, connects New Mexico's Animas Valley to San Simon in Arizona. On a scorching day in July 1881, a group of vaqueros drove their tired mules along this path, unaware they were about to give the canyon its gruesome name. High above, hidden among the Devil's Kitchen rocks, Curly Bill Brocious and his gang waited, weapons ready. As the pack train approached, the mules' heavy loads were in plain view, promising a lucrative haul. Curly Bill, impatient for action, exchanged a few words with his henchman, John Ringo, before making his move. Curly Bill casually rode down to meet the train's leader, a young Mexican anticipating his arrival in Tucson. The brief exchange seemed harmless, but as Curly Bill passed the last mule, he quickly turned, pistol in hand. 2 shots rang out, felling 2 vaqueros. Gunfire erupted from the rocks above, and the ambush descended into chaos. In the confusion, one young man managed to escape, running for the border as the rest of the train was slaughtered. The bandits wasted no time cutting the packs from the dead mules and hunting down those that had scattered. The spoils were substantial, $75,000, later spent freely in the saloons of Charleston and Galeyville. A month later, Jim Hughes, freshly returned from Sonora, learned of another well-laden pack train. Without Curly Bill, the gang struck again, this time ambushing the train near the same spot. The attack was brutal, with several Mexicans killed and the treasure swiftly taken. The pack train's mules, laden with silver coins and gold bars, were buried under 3 oak trees near the canyon's mouth, only to be retrieved later by the gang. But the canyon's history grew darker. Zwing Hunt and Billy Grounds, involved in the Stockton Ranch fight, met their own violent ends, their fates adding to the mystery of the Skeleton Canyon treasure. Rumors swirled of hidden loot, maps leading to buried riches, and ghostly apparitions guarding the canyon's secrets. Over the years, treasure hunters scoured the area, but the elusive Davis Mountain, said to hide the final resting place of the loot, remained a mystery. Even as the bodies of men and mules lay forgotten under the Arizona sun, the legend of Skeleton Canyon endured, drawing seekers into its haunting embrace. For those bold enough to search, the canyon still calls. Perhaps one day, a fortunate soul will uncover the wealth buried beneath its rocky surface. Until then, the whispers of restless spirits and the clink of forgotten coins continue to echo through Skeleton Canyon. In the Tres Montosas, a small mountain range in central New Mexico, lies a hidden treasure said to be guarded by the ghost of a Spanish cavalier, the first white man to try and steal the gold from the Navajo Indians. The Tres Montosas, or the Three Little Mountains, is a prominent landmark located 30 miles west of Socorro, New Mexico. According to Navajo legend, these mountains served as a natural fortress, protecting their people from hostile tribes long before the arrival of the Spanish. In 1540, Spanish conquistador Francisco Vázquez de Coronado explored the area along the Rio Grande in search of the legendary 7 cities of gold. One group, led by a high-ranking caballero, ventured into the Tres Montosas. This cavalier, lured by tales of gold, ingratiated himself with the local Navajos, particularly the chief's daughter. One day, while hunting with this desert maiden, the cavalier asked for water. The chief's daughter led him to a sacred well and made him swear to keep its existence and location secret. There, the conquistador discovered gold nuggets glinting in the water. That night, he returned to the spot alone, intent on stealing the gold. Unbeknownst to him, the chief had ordered a guard to follow him. As the cavalier filled the well with rocks to hide his crime, the guard attacked, killing him and burying his body in the well. Years later, an Irishman hunting in the area stumbled upon a cross scratched into a cliff and the filled-in well. Digging, he uncovered the skeleton and a cache of gold nuggets. But before he could retrieve more, the Irishman vanished, leaving his fortune and a mystery behind. In 1900, prospectors from El Paso also found the well and its riches, only to disappear without a trace the next day. Since then, no one has located the well. The secret of the gold, guarded by the ghostly conquistador, remains hidden in the Tres Montosas, waiting for a lucky finder. Treasure hunting has a mysterious, often overlooked side, one that involves the spiritual and the supernatural. Many treasure hunters claim to have encountered discarnate spirits, entities that seem to guard or linger near hidden caches. These spirits might have been connected to the treasure in life, or remain for reasons we can't fully understand. One treasure hunter who claimed to have had a brush with the supernatural was a member of Mel Fisher's crew, which famously searched for the sunken Spanish galleon, Nuestra Señora de Atocha, off the Florida Keys in the 1970s, ultimately recovering $450 million in gold, silver, and emeralds. One night, while aboard Fisher's salvage vessel, North Wind, this crew member saw an old man sitting on the stern, who vanished into thin air shortly after being seen. Another crew member, Don Kincaid, was later awakened by a voice urging him to look out. He too saw a figure near the stern, which disappeared just like its precursor. Soon after, the boat began to list dangerously, leading to a tragic accident in which 3 lives were lost. In the state of Virginia, nicknamed the Old Dominion, ghostly legends surround hidden treasures. One such tale is linked to Marmion, one of Virginia's oldest colonial estates, located in King George County. Founded in 1674 by Englishman William Fitzhugh, Marmion was named after Lord Marmion, the last of his title in England. The estate passed through generations, eventually becoming the property of Lieutenant General George Lewis, a veteran of Britain's Royal Marines, in 1785, and has remained with the Grimes family for over 175 years. According to legend, during the American Revolutionary War, Philip Fitzhugh, the last of his name to own Marmion, buried a chest of family valuables near the mansion to protect them from British troops. The chest was never recovered. For nearly a century, the ghost of a white lady is said to guard the hidden treasure. Many claim to have seen this feminine phantasm, slowly approaching them with an outstretched hand, vanishing moments before reaching them. In 1966, owner Mrs. Lucy Lewis Grimes found a roll of colonial money in the manor's attic, signed by her husband's ancestor, Robert Carter Nicholas. The rest of the treasure remains hidden somewhere on the grounds of the old estate. This box, incidentally, is a miniature version of a vast treasure story archive I've been slowly putting together, indirectly at Gary's behest. I hope you'll forgive my brief digression here into the story of this kindred project, the intimidating big brother of Box 5. When Gary was alive, I often asked him how I could repay him for the generosity he constantly showed me. In his typical selfless fashion, he asked me to help out his friend Ted Dodds, an old Western film actor and machine mechanic from Dundee, Oregon, who owned what I think must be the largest collection of treasure and Western magazines in the world, who had fallen on hard times. When I first got in touch with Ted back in 2018, he offered to sell me his enormous magazine collection, telling me that he feared it would otherwise end up in the county dump after he passed on. Being unable and unwilling to purchase the collection at the time, I instead bought 4 boxes of magazines containing Canadian treasure stories, built a website for Ted, and advertised his service several times on this channel. As Scottish-Canadian poet Robert Service put it, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, and so when Gary died, I felt obliged to honor his last request in full. In October 2023, I purchased Ted's collection, and just a few weeks ago, in August 2024, I finally drove to Oregon in the same cube van that I used to retrieve Gary's archive, and picked up the magazines. I've slowly been digitizing these old out-of-print publications and uploading them to the website truetalesofburiedtreasure.com, where the individual treasure stories they contain are searchable by region. Select stories from these magazines are also being converted to video format and published on the associated YouTube channel, True Tales of Buried Treasure. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, please check out the link in the description.